Ready? Okay. Welcome to the Murray City Planning Commission meeting on July 20th, 2023. It is 6:31. Up here in front of you, we have starting on my left, we have Commissioner Richards, Commissioner Travis Ney. We have Lisa Milkevich, who's the vice chair. My name is Jake Pearson, I'm the chair. Jeremy Lowry to my right, then Marin Patterson, and then from staff we have Susan Nixon. We have Zachary Smallwood, Susan Nixon, and then Mustafa Al-Janabi. If you could please silence your phones, which I have not done, so give me a second. Thank you. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed at murraycitylive.com and Facebook/Murray City, Utah. There will be a public comment section during the meeting. During this time, the public is welcome to come up to the podium and make a public comment. When you do, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Even though the microphone may not sound like it's picking up your voice, it is capturing your voice for the recordings online. Those watching remotely may submit comments, and the only way to do that is by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. If you make a comment on a video down below or some other way, we will not see it. So please, if you want to make a public comment remotely, please use the email I just said. Okay, is there anything else before we get started on the agenda? Nope? Okay. We have no minutes to approve, so we'll go to conflicts of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest today?
No.
No.
And I don't either. Okay, we have findings of fact. We have a whole bunch of them. Mercantile Towers PUD, Mercantile Towns Preliminary Subdivision, Premier Strand Heating and Air, Stubler Subdivision, Burger Station Subdivision, Applegate Condominiums, and Fuji Townhomes. Does anybody have any issues with the findings of facts?
No.
No.
Okay, then we could entertain, all in favor of approving those, say aye.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, do we need a motion?
I don't know.
We
Mr.
have to
Chair?
have a motion? Let's do a motion, you're right, we have to have a motion. Please do a motion.
Mr.
for
Chair,
it.
can I make a motion?
Please do.
Excellent. Can I make a motion that we accept the finding of facts for all 7 items as noted in the packet? Is that fair? As you just stated?
That sounds great. So we have a motion from Commissioner Milkevich. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Richards. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move on to number 4. This is Hogan Haven. And this is going to be presented by Susan
Yes.
Nixon. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. This request from Suzanne Hogan is for a 1-year extension for the preliminary and final subdivision, flag lot subdivision. The property is located at 6100 South and 6150 South, 1700 East, and it is currently within the R18 zone as shown on the map. And a couple of photos of the property. The Planning Commission, as I said, granted preliminary and final flag lot subdivision on July 21st of last year. And our code requires that when final subdivision approval is granted, that the plat must be recorded within 1 year. There is a clause in our code that does allow for the applicant to request a 1-year time extension for up to 12 months. And Ms. Hogan has requested that. We've seen a few of these lately because of the market and interest rates shooting up, et cetera. She's requested a 1-year extension and based on the same conditions as originally approved. And I don't know if you want me to review the approval, but basically both lots meet or exceed the zoning requirements of the R18 zone as far as area and setbacks. And then a copy of the proposed flag lot and the existing site plan. But it's what we want to look at basically is the plat shown here. And if the Planning Commission does decide to grant the approval, the plat must be recorded by July 20 of 2024. And then again, the same conditions would apply if the extension is granted.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Susan?
Nope.
No? Okay, is the applicant present? Great, could you come up to the podium? and State your name and address.
Suzanne Hogan, 17 East 6150 South.
Perfect, thanks for being here. Yes.
I don't think that was heard in the recording.
Just grab the microphone.
Oh, okay.
The sound guy was waving at us, sorry.
Suzanne Hogan, 17 East 6150 South.
Okay, hold on, I think we're having an audio issue, so let's see if we can fix it real quick.
That's what happens when you're always the first one at the podium. Happened to me last
Sorry, I
time.
have no clue.
Oh, I think it's working. Okay,
I'll do it for the
one more
fifth
time,
time.
if
Just
you
third
could
time.
just tell us your name and address.
Okay, I am Suzanne Hogan, and my address is 17 East 6150 South.
Good, I'm glad it was the same answer every time.
You're wondering.
Is there anything you would like to tell the commission about this application? No?
No?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
It has the same conditions as the original one. Will you be able to comply with those?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Nope.
I have a question for staff, but not for the applicant.
Okay, you can go ahead and sit down, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Just to educate myself and the public maybe, the economy seems to me not to be changing in favor of projects currently. What happens after a year? If the economy is the same and it's been hard to develop, you can reapply.
She would have to reapply because we can only do the one-time extension. Reapply and start all over, or, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're gonna have a public comment period, so if anybody wants to make a comment about this application, they can come up here to the podium. Or like I mentioned earlier, if you're listening remotely, the only way you can make a comment is by emailing Planning Commission at Murray, Utah, at murray.utah.gov. Is anybody here to comment on this? I don't see anybody here. No emails as well, so we're gonna go ahead and close the public comment period. And I think we can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission grant a one-year time extension for final subdivision approval for the Hogan Haven Flag Lot subdivision of the property located at 17th East, 6150 South, subject to the 11 conditions.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Lowry. Is there a second?
I could second that
Yep.
motion.
We have a second from Vice Chair Milkevich. Let's do a vote.
Okay. Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Ms. Makevich,
Yes.
Mr. Ney,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay, congratulations on your extension. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, Mercantile Towns, and this will be presented by Zachary Smallwood.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. So this is a request from the Boyer Company for final planned unit and subdivision approval at the properties 861, and I just left that whole thing. It's a whole bunch of properties off Winchester Street and 900 East. I'll go back just to make sure. 861 East, and then 6520, 6550, 6580 South, 900 East. There is a aerial here. It was the location of the former RC Willie. It's been kind of scraped clean now, so it was recently, I believe last year, rezoned to RM15, which allows up to 12 units per acre. So a couple items the items that we're going to address that were originally from the preliminary review regarded fencing, elevations, the sidewalk and setback modifications, and height. So this is a 109 townhome development on, I believe, 9 acres or so. a little bit more than 9 acres. And no, the layout has not changed in the final subdivision. Everything is pretty much exactly as you saw it originally. Just quickly review, there was only one change in the zoning standards. The front setback to accommodate the additional 2 feet for the sidewalk is, so that was, they were actually able to only move that forward 1 foot, or, sorry, the sidewalk received that 2-foot extra space, but they only had to reduce the setback by an additional foot. They just were able to move things around in a way that it still stayed within 19 feet. So we're pretty happy with that. Like I mentioned, so parking, 273 stalls are required for the 2.5 per unit at 109 units. They provided 407. That puts them at about 3.7 per unit. So quickly, just kind of showing you, this was part of the fencing requirement. There are 24-foot breaks in the fence, about every 65. So I'll point it out here. This is 95 feet approximately, and then you have an 80, an 80, and then 65 feet here. So it does provide a pretty significant landscape barrier between those. And as you can see, all these nice little squiggly lines or trees that are going to be in there. So I think it'll be a nice addition. This is the overall fencing plan that was developed with the applicant. So you have everything in that orange color is the proposed 6 feet. If you remember in the preliminary discussions, they felt that 6 feet was more appropriate for those kind of backyards-ish, so that they're not feeling walled in. And then the blue is an 8-foot wall that goes around the remaining property. Couple pictures of what they're proposing for the fencing. It looks like it's a composite material. Staff is pretty happy with that. I think it'll look really good, really nice in that area. So I'll go over these were provided in the preliminary review, these renderings. We just didn't have actual elevations. So it was modified just a little bit. It's really nothing major, and we'll get to that. So these are the renderings that were provided at preliminary. And then if you have a keen eye, you'll notice there's just slight differences here, like a little swoop right there if you're curious. So they are proposed to be less than the 30 feet, or except for one of the buildings, which is exactly at the 30 feet. This was a requirement during preliminary review because the fire department, anything over 30 feet in height requires a 26-foot access. They are not going to be able to accommodate a 26-foot access, so that leaves the height will be limited to 30 feet. So we'll go through a couple of these elevations. This is a 3-plex with a front load garage. This is 4-plex, pretty much carbon copy. As I was getting through these, I was realizing that they're pretty much the same. 5-plex is exactly the same, just 5. And then they do have a few that are rear loaded. So this is the architectural rendering that was provided. They are sticking to this fairly well. This is the 5-plex with the rear loaded garages. So these were pictures left over from the preliminary review. As you can see, they are addressing that grade, and it'll be taken care of. It'll be lowered at that point. So we are recommending that the Planning Commission grant the final planned unit development subdivision for the mercantile towns at the subject properties, subject to the 9 conditions that were in your staff report and are on the screen.
Thank you.
Yeah, what questions can I get answered for you?
Any questions? Okay. If there's no questions, is the applicant present? applicant is. Please state your name and address for us.
Sure. Spencer Moffett with the Boyer Company, 101 South, 200 East, Suite 200, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Thank you.
I-
Go
That,
ahead.
audio working?
Yeah, go
We're
ahead.
good. All right, we're good. Anyway, we're happy to be here after 2.5 years. We appreciate the work that staff's done. We feel like it's been a collaborative effort. We've tried to listen and incorporate the feedback that was given in the last meeting regarding fencing, breaking up the wall, architecture. At this point, we're just excited to move on with the project, well, move into the construction phase of the project. And this is a big undertaking for us, but we're very excited about it. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but I think Zach did a really good job covering it. So we're just here as a resource if there should be any additional questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I want to say thank you very much for bringing all the details about the fencing and the setbacks, the lengths, and the landscaping plans. It looks really nice, and I appreciate you showing.
Thank you. And that, we appreciate the feedback too. I mean, we don't have a monopoly on good ideas, and so to hear what has worked in other communities and what the planning commission and staff would like to see that's helpful. So, thank you.
I also appreciate all the amenities you've put into this project, the pool, the clubhouse, the courts.
Pickleball?
And the playground. It looks like you've put some time and space into it, and appreciate that.
Yeah, and just one thing to note, and it's relevant but not relevant, we found that a lot of the people who will be here by choice. They like the location, they like the amenities, and it's somewhere that they're choosing to live, not that they have to live. And so we want to create a strong community where it's, they feel like they're living in a really nice environment. And, it's not, this is a transient step to the next place. It's here because it's nice and they enjoy it, and so that's what we're targeting.
I appreciate that. And just out of curiosity, I guess, if it's inappropriate, you can tell me, but I feel like it helps the community understand what's happening in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Do you have a ballpark at which these units will sell?
How much they'll sell? That is a great question. We're out for bid right now. That's a big factor. And we've talked before, that we're platting them individually so that we have that option. There is also the option we've discussed about doing a for rent because that gives us control of the community. And we're seeing strong demand for that. So that's something we'll assess when we get costs back and see, if they're actually affordable to build. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Before you step down, have you reviewed these 9 conditions and are you able to comply?
We have reviewed these conditions. Yeah, and we're comfortable with them. There's a couple things, colors may change as we're working through things with our designer. We're committed to brick and other elements as provided, but I just want to be clear, the color schemes you see up there may be altered a little bit depending on the feedback we get from designers, but generally, yes, we're comfortable and we've been through these with staff and we think they're all addressable.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I appreciate you stating that. Sometimes we have, the community comes in, sees the picture, and it doesn't look like the picture, they're upset, so.
Yeah, we'll try to mirror it as closely as possible, but historically, as we've been around the city, our designer really likes the red brick element that's here in historical, so she's trying to incorporate some of that into the schemes, and we think that would be really cool to tie it to the historicity of the area, so,
I appreciate it. It sounds like you're listening to the community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thanks.
No other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, let's open up a public comment period. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And if you are watching remotely, the only way you can make a comment is by emailing planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. Please go ahead, state your name and address.
Gary Weston, 809 East Southwood Drive. I'm about a quarter of a mile north of the project. I couldn't tell when I looked at the plat, the exit out on the 9th East, is that still exit only and not entrance and exit? I don't mean that, I'm sorry. Entrance only, not exit. No exit on the 9th East?
We'll answer the questions after the public comment period, but I'll try to get an answer for you.
Okay. Number 2, the height of the fence is along 9th East. What's the height of that fence now?
Can you go back to that?
It's 6 feet.
It's 6 feet now?
Oh,
It will
there
be.
is no fence now.
Yeah, will be.
No. What will the fence be that's along 9th East?
They're
6 feet.
6 feet.
How much?
6.
6 feet, okay. Next question, these are all townhouses and they will be all marketed for sale, not for rent. Is that what we understand?
I will address that after as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, any emails?
I didn't.
Only one that was requesting a link to the meeting, but no
Okay.
comments.
Okay, so well, seeing no other comments, let's close the public comment period. And then so we addressed the fence. Can we address the exit or the entrance?
So those were reviewed by both UDOT and the city engineer. And I believe during preliminary, we discussed that they are actually full accesses. They are both in and out.
Okay.
Does that mean right only, or?
That will be determined by UDOT, because this is a UDOT access. And so they would be required to follow any UDOT recommendations. That's stated in the conditions. Sorry, I'm flying through this. But it is located right there under 1E and 1F. So obtain all required UDOT site accesses and encroachment permits and provide a level 2 traffic impact study and
Because
implement
this is a
recommendations.
UDOT road.
It is a UDOT road.
That's why it's
Yep.
UDOT, okay.
Yep.
And then could you just address the for sale or for rent and explain how
Yeah.
that does or doesn't work?
Exactly. So the application before the planning commission is for a subdivision, so these will be individually platted. And so that they can be for sale. However, it is not in our purview. We are not allowed, because of the Fair Housing Act, to require somebody to list something for sale or for rent. That is a private property issue, and is granted to anybody that owns a home or owns property. So their intention is to have these individually platted. They could sell half the project and keep half the project. There's a lot of opportunities there, but from the beginning of this, they are individually platted so that they can sell them.
Perfect, thank you. And I'd just like to mention, just like a normal neighborhood, single-family neighborhood, those houses can be rented or sold.
Correct.
And there's nothing the city could do to stop someone from renting or selling a house, so. Any other discussions? If not, we could entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, the planning commission grant the final PUD subdivision approval for Mercantile Towns on the property's address 861 East Winchester Street and 6520, 6550, 6580 South 900 East, subject to the 9 conditions.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Ney. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Richards. Let's do a vote.
Perfect. Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations. We look forward to seeing it develop. Okay, let's move on to agenda items number 6 and 7. These will be presented together and will also be presented by Zachary Smallwood.
Yeah, thank you. This is a request from Justin Lang for a general plan and zone map amendment for the property's address 770, 780 West, 5300 South, and 864 West Clover Meadow Drive. They are located here. I thought it was actually kind of funny that this property, this little sliver, is addressed off Clover Meadow Drive, even though it has absolutely no frontage on that road whatsoever. So with that, this is currently zoned for single-family residential, 8,000 square foot lots. The request is to go to RM15, which is a multifamily zone with a base density of 12 units per acre. So we're going to go over a couple of things in the general plan that support this application. So Initiative 3, there are 5 initiatives in the 2017 general plan that outline exactly, how we should be evaluating and how we should look at growth. Initiative 3 is a livable and vibrant neighborhoods. And on page 46, it states things that are needed for success. Buffering, visual and auditory between adjacent uses. We do think that any proposed project here would provide kind of a sound barrier from these to the single-family neighborhood to the north of it. These will be, buffered with probably fencing and that project. And then also it recommends encouraging a range of housing types. So missing middle around single family and apartments to kind of create more of a gradient as opposed to clustering all the apartments together, clustering all the single family together. That allows for people to stay in their neighborhoods, such as like empty nesters that decide that they no longer need a single family home and would be able to, possibly move into a townhome or, rent or what have you. So the future land use map indicates that this to remain low-density residential. However, the general plan is a fluid document and was evaluated at the market conditions at the time and what we expected. That doesn't mean that it cannot be changed or reevaluated. If you'll remember down here, this is now Murray Heights, and you can see it was actually scheduled to be residential business. And the Planning Commission and the City Council forwarded to change that to a medium-density residential. So future land use categories. Currently, it's in the low-density residential zone. This is largely established, uses in established and planned neighborhoods. It's one of the most common in the city, as well as, I apologize, yeah, and it should be close to, it should be largely used for single-family development. Density range is between 1 and 8 dwelling units per acre. What they're requesting, or Mr. Lang is requesting, is medium-density residential. Again, this is to provide more of a buffer area and allows for like the R16, RM10, and RM15 zones, so between 6 and 15 dwelling units per acre. So in the land use and urban design element of the general plan, the applicable objectives here are encourage revitalization along key transportation corridors in the core of the city. This has largely been a vacant piece of property along 5300 South. It has very little access around it. Surprisingly, Mr. Lang was able to get an access from UDOT to develop this property. Objective 9 is provide a mix of housing options in residential zones to meet a diverse range of needs related to lifestyle demographics, including age, household size, and income. This, again, kind of relates back to integrating additional housing types near single family for that aging in your neighborhood. Objective 10, promote a transition of development patterns between commercial areas and stable residential neighborhoods. Specifically, I'm kind of just beating a dead horse here, but that transition again. So, go ahead.
For those that are less familiar with what we mean by transitioning, can you describe it just a little bit?
Yeah, so transitioning just meaning, so kind of like I mentioned with the, let me go back to, this isn't a really great map, I apologize. But so you have a lot of high traffic in this area, and it makes more sense to have kind of a better, more, a higher density of housing here, more homes along here to help buffer that and transition into more of a single-family neighborhood. It kind of provides that it transitions it a little bit more into a lower density area. That's happened around the single-family neighborhood with, now I can't remember the name of it. There's Applegate over here on the east, and then you also have another townhome development over here on the west. That's already been happening for a number of years. Oh, Chestnut, yes. So that's kind of what we mean by transition.
Would another discussion around transitioning, sometimes on very high-traffic roads, you see commercial
Yes,
or industrial, but
Yep.
then that would be commercial right next to single-family residential.
correct.
So residential at a medium density would be more of a gentle buffer?
Yeah, a
than
little, yeah, a
commercial?
gentler yeah, definitely. And then in the neighborhood and housing and the moderate income housing strategies. So in neighborhood and housings, preserve and stabilize current neighborhoods. So, you know, protecting the character and integrity of residential neighborhoods through landscape buffers and visual buffer transitions. Again, 53rd is a very busy road most of the time, probably has a lot of ambient noise. Being able to kind of buffer that with some additional housing could buffer the existing single-family neighborhood from some of those noises as well. And the last strategy there, support residential infill projects at a compatible scale and form. Like I said, this has been largely vacant. There is a single-family home that is, I believe, not connected to pretty much any utilities except power. It's on a septic currently and doesn't have much connection to that. So also objective 3, encouraging housing options for a variety of age, family size, and financial levels. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the strategy in the moderate income housing to amend land use regulations and allow for higher density or new moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near transit investment corridors. I would say 53rd, it is a UDOT. Typically, when we usually talk about transit investment corridors, we're talking about those rail, like our rail transit, but 53rd is a transit investment corridor. They've talked about it before, that these higher arterials that kind of cross the valley are a vehicular transit investment corridor. Townhomes are often cheaper, not by a lot, but they are kind of getting people into housing and purchasing and owning their own slice of heaven. That's my slice of heaven anyway.
And cost aside, I think it supports life living, so someone that doesn't want to or can't maintain yard, garden, shrubbery. right,
Definitely.
Looks for, so busy family, aging, wants to age in place in the community. right?
Yep, definitely. All right, and then so just quickly, that's kind of the general plan, why we believe it is supported by the general plan to rezone or to amend the general plan. Zoning comparison between the two, the R18 there on your left and the RM15 on the right there. Height difference is only about 5 additional feet in the RM15. The front yard and rear yard setbacks are the same, side yard setbacks are the same. There is an additional parking, half a parking space per unit in the RM15, so you're required 2.5 spaces per unit as opposed to 2 spaces per dwelling unit. And so staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for both the general plan amendment and the zone map amendment. Any questions I can answer?
I just have a couple.
Sure.
I believe that the speed limit is at the beginning of this property, I think it's 40, and then it transitions to 50.
And then back, and then reverse
the
going
yeah,
east.
exactly.
Yeah, eastward.
And I don't know if this is a UDOT question or a Murray City question, but are we able to put a lane, or, I don't know what that's called, what is that called? A slow down lane?
And accelerating, like a decel lane and
Yes.
an acceleration lane.
Yeah, would that be something UDOT would allow them to put there?
That actually was in the question that the city engineer asked when we found out that he was able to get approval. And yeah, UDOT did say they would require a decel lane at
Okay.
minimum. That would definitely come more at the project review level.
Sure.
Where we get more kind of design and what they're anticipating on building.
Okay, and then, I don't know if I have a question here, but I'm gonna. The only way you can walk down 54th right now is on the north side of the road. There is no way to walk on the south side of the road. And so there will be foot traffic, crossing these two entrances. And so, along with that, I mean, is there something, if this is changed and they decide to develop it, will we have a chance to look at that and try to figure out a way that we can make sure that the passengers or the public is safe when they're walking on that? Or-
Definitely. I would anticipate that. Let me go back.
So-
Sorry, I'm flying through these.
So let me just ask, just so I understand, if they submit an application to develop this, can they submit a PUD for this?
Yes,
Okay, so if they submit a PUD, we would review that.
Correct.
If they didn't submit a PUD, would we still review it?
yes,
We'd review it either way?
either way.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
there will be a
Any
review
development.
either way. Yeah, in the RM15 zones, either way, it's being
Okay.
reviewed. And to your other question, so you are correct. There's only a sidewalk along here. And if you'll notice, his property begins way up here. So he's gonna have to work with UDOT on something in this area.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a significant distance to kind of move through here. So there will be probably a significant work with UDOT to provide that.
Okay, and the only way, because of the turnaround, I think the only way he's able to develop this is with in and out, I assume, right?
It's right in, right out. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they've stated, is
Yeah.
right in, right out with an island in the,
Yeah.
like, an island
Yeah.
here blocking,
Similar
so
to
nobody
this
can
left
turn
turn
in.
west.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. No other questions from commissioners? Okay, perfect. Is the application here, or the applicant present? Please come up, state your name and address.
Justin Lang, 811 Clover Meadow Drive.
Great. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the commission?
No, I mean, I can speak to your question. UDOT is requiring an excel and decel lane. It's right in, right out, and there'll be what they call a pork chop, which is like a little island like this. So there'll be significant slowdown before you hit the sidewalk, because you'll basically be making a right-hand turn to get
Right.
into the development. So
Okay,
yeah, it will be, and we will be happy to work with the commission on designing that in the right way, so.
Okay.
Gone out of our way to kind of chat with everyone before we even start. I've been kind of looking at this for about 10 years, so I'm the third house down backing this property.
This one, right? This one?
Nope, next door.
This one?
One more to the left.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. So,
My finger went too far. I meant this one, but my
yeah,
finger
so
went
yeah,
too
that's
far.
my place. I've looked at it. I would love a sound barrier back there, which is why I started thinking about it, because 53rd is a very loud road, so.
Sure.
But yeah, we're happy to work to make it the right design. I've chatted with some of the neighbors that back up to it, and hopefully we'll be able to get it worked out. Happy to answer any questions I have. I mean, it's just a land thing now. We don't have a design yet, but.
sure. Does anybody have any questions for that?
Do you want to comment at all about what your proposed use may be, or do you want to save that for later?
I mean, townhouses, it's sandwiched between two townhouse things, and it has no access to the single-family neighborhood, so there's not enough room to build single-family in a way that makes any sense. So, yeah, it would be medium density, very similar to Chestnut Place, which we can't scroll over to, but yeah, that's the intended project. They're 6 acres with 60-something units, so their zoning was never changed because they were there before that map existed. So on the zoning map, they just show them as R18, but they're actually about the same density that we're looking at, so.
Can I just ask you, I mean,
Yeah.
it was so surprising to hear that you got UDOT access, because I know that Murray, what are they called, Heights, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, had tried to get something off of 53rd, and it seems like a fast turnaround.
yeah, so I own this little house here that's
Yeah.
like 150 years old or something, and we have an access granted. So they're granting us a new access basically so that we don't use that existing one because it's in a terrible spot. It's
So
at the
you
top of
guys
it.
had some different,
Yeah,
it
ours-
was a different
ours was a
situation a
little
little
different.
bit
Yeah,
than
they-
Murray Heights, because you already,
Yeah,
We're
UDOT
access.
couldn't technically deny us because we
I
already
see.
own an access, but we
Okay.
said, okay, grant us a new one, or we can put it in here, and it's worse for everyone because we're right next to 7th West.
right,
We're,
very close
we're
to
at the top of the hill,
intersection.
so the view is
Yeah.
terrible from that access.
So it probably will, yeah, be a lot safer.
Yeah, and with that, so that big triangle that's cut out that gives us a ton of space is all UDOT property. So we can build the access with Excel and decel lanes and everything without any issue, and it won't affect 53rd, so.
Yeah, we just know that they're very hard to get anything from, so that's, yeah, that makes sense that you guys had already a
Yeah,
way to get that done, so.
There was an audible,
it was,
like, wow.
Yeah, we
when
were shocked.
mentioned it.
Well, because we know how much they tried, across the street and other places that UDOT controls, trying
Yeah.
to add an access
yeah,
there.
I know Brad Reynolds was. had
Yeah,
the same
he
issue,
also,
so-
same thing, exactly, yeah, so that makes sense where you guys were in a little bit of a different situation.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to do a public comment period. Can I do these combined, the two?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna do a public comment period, and this is for, agenda items number 6 and 7. So if you have any, public comments that you want to, mention to us, you can come up to the podium and make a comment, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and if you are watching remotely, please email planningcommission@murray.utah.gov to make a comment. And I just want to mention, public comments, you'll be able to say stuff. We're going to listen. At the end of the public comment period, we will try to answer any questions that you may have. So go ahead.
My name is Shannon Hart, and I live at 5357 South New Hampton Drive in Chestnut Place. You said that there are 12 acres, 12 acres, and then I wondered how many units per acre would be allowed? And also, Murray City is redoing a lot of the sewer, and my understanding is they're going kind of through this field and then into the neighbors' backyards on the corner of Clover Meadow. And so how will that affect, this building affect the ability for the city with all the sewer lines underneath there? How are they going to fix it? I wanted to clarify that there will not be any entrance and exit onto the Clover Meadow Street, just to make sure that it doesn't create a whole bunch of traffic within the neighborhood. Let's see. I know that the city is presently measuring and taking pictures of these houses in the corner where the sewer is going to go through. Will the property builder be responsible for any damage to these homes that comes along? I don't know if that's something that's a reasonable question, but it comes into my mind, so. And I just want to clarify how many units are proposed.
Okay, thank you. We'll try to get those answers for you at the end of the public comment period. Any other public comments? Come up, please.
My name is Carol Petrie. I am president of the Chestnut Place Condominiums Homeowners Association. 65 owners. So I think I have more than just 2 or 3 minutes. Hopefully, maybe. I'll
Yeah.
talk fast. You know, listening to all that you said a minute ago, I'm thinking that what I'm wanting to talk about is probably more for UDOT than Murray City. But I have a couple of questions. I'll go ahead and present those, and maybe you or you may have some answers as well. So we have concerns about traffic. And I have some notes, and I'm going to read from these just so I don't forget anything. Okay. So I think I've been told that we're looking at about 30-plus units to go in there, whether they're rentals or to be built and sold, I don't know. But I think we've been told 30 units, 30-plus units going in.
We don't know how many units will go in yet. We have nothing designed. I think
Wait,
So-
Can you,
we're-
yeah.
Yeah, we're
Can you
gonna,
address the commission
Yeah.
when you're addressing your question?
because
And
this
we
is a
can
public,
answer.
because this is
Okay.
a public meeting, we
Alright.
have to have everything on recording,
In a
so that's why we
conversa-
have to do it this way, so.
Okay, in a previous conversation, I think I was told 30-plus units, but I'm not sure on that. Okay, so if it's approved, all of these people living in those units, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people with 1, 2, or 3 vehicles, will greatly affect traffic flow. That's our concern. And again, it could be that I should be talking with people at UDOT. I don't know, but here goes. So that is a very busy intersection at 53rd, 54, and 1070 West, which is Murray Parkway Drive. It's a busy intersection, it's a busy street. In fact, today, I went and took photos at 4:15 and 5:15 to show the traffic flow both directions. I can make those photos available on a thumb drive tomorrow, if you'd like. It's a busy, busy corner, it's a busy street, especially during the hours of 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. It's a little bit of a zoo out there sometimes. There have been many accidents at that intersection as well. So moving along, aside from Chestnut, that starts in the far left corner over there, and Zach, if you can, this map that I got off of your website, where are we? There's 53 Murray Boulevard, where are we there?
This,
There,
this is Chestnut.
I think we're further, okay, so back it up a little bit to the intersection. There are several office buildings, well, I think there's 3 or 4 office buildings at the corner of 54 and 1070 West. Also, other traffic that happens, especially on weekends, there's Germania Park that has a soccer field, has a basketball court, and it has a volleyball court. That brings an awful lot of people on 1070 West or Murray Parkway Drive. So that creates a lot of traffic. So moving along, 53, 54, like I said, is already very busy. Here's some questions that I have. Now, backtrack. Potentially, where is the in and out of that new proposed development off of 54? Where is that going to be approximately? Do we know? Do we know?
We'll address your questions at the end, so if you just
Okay.
want to just,
I was told by phone earlier today that it's probably a little closer to 1070 West, which is also Murray Parkway Drive. Okay, sort of, you know where there's a little bit of an angle there? I'm thinking that it might be there or a little further west. Don't know for sure. Nevertheless, if someone needs to go east when leaving the new community, how do they go east? How do they access? How do they get out of that to go east? Because we have 2 lanes going west, 2 lanes going east, and an empty empty section in the middle. So would people be required to try to get across 2 lanes of traffic going west, get in the middle, and wait for traffic, 2 more lanes of traffic going east, to go east? That's a question. If someone coming from the west is wishing to enter the new community, how do they do it? Do they go to 700 West, wait for the traffic signal or an arrow to make a U-turn to go back to their house? That's another question. How is Murray City Planning Commission going to address these issues? Will there be a new traffic signal? I was told no. But again, that's probably UDOT. So, there's my next question. Are new residents expecting, and I already said that, cut across 2 lanes of traffic, but if they want to go east, the other thing they could do is go west on 54 to 1070, get in the turning lane, wait for traffic to go away so they can do a U-turn to go east. That's another option. So it gets a little bit complicated. All this to say that it's reasonable to anticipate there's going to be quite a bit more traffic with 30-plus units going in that section. We're concerned. It's already very, very busy. So I know that at Chestnut, 65 units, we probably have well over 100 vehicles going in and out of our community. You're putting 30-plus units there. I think it's reasonable to expect 60, 70, 80 vehicles going in and out, traffic to maneuver, trying to maneuver going east from there or west coming back in. I think it gets a little bit complicated, and that's our concern. Foot traffic, there is a sidewalk. We often see a lot of, mostly kids, teenagers, walking that sidewalk. We have issues there. We get broken into our fence on a regular basis. That's neither here nor there, it's just a side note. So that's our concern. Again, for Chestnut Place condominiums, we have a lot of people there. They're busy people. They work. They're in and out all the time. I'm repeating myself, but that's all I have to say. I think it's an important situation for us to maintain. We were built, by the way, in the 1980s, mid-80s. We've been there a long time. We have residents who've been there for 30 years. Some of those are retired, some are still working. So they're concerned. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
Lots of questions. Thank you.
Okay, do we have other public comments? Nobody else here? Zach, do we have any emails?
I didn't. I'll just double check. No, we don't have anything.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and close the public comment period, and let's see if we can answer some of these questions. Does anybody want to?
Yeah, I can.
Thanks, Zach.
Yep, I can take them on. So the sewer line project, that's actually a great question. That any sewer improvements, that was a concern kind of in the packet. The wastewater division does have concerns with the way that property kind of sinks down. That will have to be addressed, and it's going to be a significant thing that Justin's going to have to work through, and I'll let him address that here in a minute too.
Just one second.
Yeah.
We'll let you come back up here in a second.
Yeah,
Okay?
and I'll let him address it further too. There will absolutely not be a access. There's just no way for an access to be on Clover Meadow. As you can see on this property, this is not part of the project, and even if it were, I actually, dang it, I put this in its way, unfortunately, but this property owner has property that goes to about here, and then from here over is actually owned by Murray City. So that pretty much lops off any way of connecting through there. Let's see. There were a couple others. Oh, how many, so to clarify, and I apologize, I may not have explained this really well. So the property itself is 2.9 acres. The allowed housing is 12 units per acre. So a total, the maximum, and this is the absolute maximum he could get, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what he'll be able to build, would be 35 units. Because there are a lot of site constraints, you have to factor in fire access, fire turnarounds, those types of things. So that usually can eat into how many units you can put in. Not necessarily with, I'll just reiterate, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Carol. Carol asked about multiple heights of units. That is a possibility, but again, the height restrictions there are,
Still remain, it would still be capped.
it's still capped at the number of units and a max height of 40 feet. There's no way of going above that.
Mr. Smallwood?
Yeah.
Most two-story houses are about 30, 35 feet?
That's correct. Yep, we're typically getting there. Yeah, about that height. Let's see. I think we kind of addressed it, but the access, and I'll let Justin speak to it a little bit more, but I believe the access is granted around this area, like on that west side. Let's see. Traffic, that will be evaluated. I guarantee that Trey will require a UDOT access and traffic impact study. That will be reviewed if this zone gets changed and a project comes forward. That's typically when these things come, we get those traffic impact studies, is at that stage. Let's see, what else? I think I addressed most. Oh, right in, right out. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I kind of made mention of it in the presentation, but there would be a hard barrier in this middle turn lane blocking any left-hand turns. UDOT does not want left-hand turns into or across their right-of-ways. So it would be, and this actually gives Mr. Lang quite a benefit, because UDOT will actually be able to create a decel lane that is pretty significantly off the travel lanes, and same with an acceleration lane. And as was kind of mentioned, there's this thing, it's called a pork chop is really what it is. It's a glorified raised triangle that prohibits cars from turning left. It makes it almost nigh impossible to get over those. So,
I live in the neighborhood just to the west of here, and if you just drive down 54th a little bit past the light, you'll see our neighborhood is similar, where they only allow us to turn right out, and there is a barrier in between.
I believe it's this guy right here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that way, there's not traffic crossing across, multiple lanes of traffic.
And if you want, go back to that, if you want to, that's a deceleration lane that's turning in
Oh,
right there. If
this,
you don't
yes.
know what that is, it would be like a
Oh.
separate lane, right, that you would slow down and then want to pull out, is what they're meaning when they say a deceleration lane,
Yeah,
acceleration.
this is actually quite a small.
No, I meant on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, right
Yeah.
here, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Across.
across the north. I'm sorry, I can't do my little
To give you a visual
laser.
of what that means, it would be an extra lane that would be a place that people would be able to slow down as they would be turning right, because they can only turn right into that project.
And the south side actually does have a little bit of an acceleration lane as well.
Yep.
Not much of it, but a little one.
And as far as, my estimation going east, I live close to State Street, which is also a UDOT road, and there's barriers the whole way, and so you can't turn left, and so that you do expect to do U-turns. That is kind of how UDOT I don't know what else they expect you to do, because, yeah, you would go down and probably U-turn and turn around, because there's not a way to turn left to go east on that part of the road, so.
I think just to, Zach mentioned this, but we will probably be looking at a traffic study
Yeah.
if there's development going on here in the future. And so at that point, we would look at the details and how many trips that would add to this road. And then we could make a decision on, whether that development fits this place or not.
Maybe it would be Zach, maybe it would be an appropriate idea to kind of walk through the process that the applicant would have to go through to go from where he is today to actually starting to build, and the different steps that he would have to go through and the different approvals he'd have to seek.
Sure. So tonight's action is a recommendation to the city council. So what happens from here is, depending on your recommendation, this, doesn't depend on your recommendation. Either way, it goes to the city council for their review, and they make the decision on, they do take the planning commission's recommendation seriously, and so they will review the application and make a decision. And then after that is done, typically that's, the developer usually does not do much. They get kind of conceptual plans ready, but they don't really go forward until they have that zoning in place. And then what typically happens is we would work with Justin. He would most likely be required to do a concept review, which is internal, staff level. We look at proposals of what he's doing. It gets reviewed by all the departments in the city, so that's power, water, wastewater, engineering, police, fire. They all review this project and provide comments back to developers. And then he would work through that to get prepared to make an application for a preliminary subdivision, and most likely a planned unit development. If doing townhomes, he would have to do a planned unit development at that point. And then that, again, goes through the same review, an internal review through the various departments to refine that a little bit more, and then it comes back before this body.
And likely before that step, he would have had a traffic study.
Yeah, it would be, most likely it would be required at the preliminary stage. Definitely a UDOT, typically, kind of like we mentioned in the last item, a UDOT access and like a level 2 traffic impact study will be required. So that would be part of that. And typically we get that during the preliminary stage, and that's usually included in your packets, at least the review of that. So that would then come before this board or this commission again to review as a preliminary as the actual project. And then if that gets approved, if that preliminary gets granted, then they continue to work with the city to work towards a final subdivision, which again then comes before this body for now.
So the public has multiple opportunities to voice concerns and ask questions, so keep your eyes open, go to city council meetings and come to more planning commission meetings?
Of course, and then also, I always extend that I am always, anyone here on staff is always able to talk about if we have an application, those are technically public documents, we can talk about those, and discuss any potential projects that are coming forward, as long as we have an application. If I don't have one, technically that could be protected information and I don't have access to it. But yeah.
Thank you. That was very
May I
great.
ask one more quick question?
That's up to you.
Yeah, give us 1 second. Susan, I think, had a comment, and then
I
I'll let
was
you
just
come
going
back up.
to comment when she was questioning the traffic. 5300 South, as you stated, is very busy. It's got over 30,000 trips per day. And this is where we want the traffic to go. So this is actually the ideal situation for a new project to have it go on to 5300 rather than route back through the residential neighborhoods.
Okay, let's have, I'm gonna mention something, then I'm gonna have Justin come back up, and then I'll let you come back up as well, okay? Before I have Justin come up, I just wanted to mention in the application, the city departments review this. It was mentioned, the sewer was mentioned, and Zach talked about it a little bit, but the fire department, the power department, the sewer department all review these, all these applications, and they give us comments, and so anything with the sewer will be worked out prior to someone taking a backhoe to a sewer line, so just wanted to mention that. So let's have,
There
Yeah,
was
go
one,
ahead.
there was one more question, there was one more question about damaged homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So before Justin comes up, typically, we don't usually see that kind of stuff happen. There are these things, they do have to, the application does have to go through, if it's over an acre, it goes through what's called a land disturbance permit. So they make sure that that groundwater is protected, there's dust control. There's a lot that goes into those land disturbance permits so that they're making sure that any projects or any land that's being moved around is not affecting the surrounding property owners as well.
Well, it's mitigated to best that
And
it
is
can be.
mitigated, correct, yeah.
I mean, there might be some small
Yeah,
effects.
there might be
but-
small effects, there might be, construction during normal business hours, if it gets to that point. I just lost my train of thought. There was one other thing I wanted to say, and I can't remember, it'll come up, so, yeah.
thank you. Any other comments before we have Justin come up?
May I ask a clarifying question?
You know what, I'm gonna have Justin come up, and then I'm gonna open a public comment period, and you'll be welcome to come up as well, okay? Can you please state your name and address again?
Justin Lang, 811 Clover Meadow Drive.
Okay.
So the big issue she's talking about, it's not a sewer line, it's a storm drain that's going in and going under the houses, and I've already met with the Murray City Public Works, we've addressed that. Our sewer line will likely come out the other side of the property. Sewer's not allowed to be near other water lines or storm drain lines, so it'll be unrelated. It's mentioned that it's gonna be an issue because we're not currently connected to sewer. It's just a septic tank for that small house and propane, so we'll need to bring in gas lines and sewer lines and upgrade the water line and upgrade the power that will go in there. So that will all be addressed in the actual development of it, but yeah, we have already discussed, Murray City has an easement that they've purchased through this property for the storm drain project, which is being dug right now at 1070 West and will work its way to this. And it has been issues for this neighborhood for years. They've had a bunch of flooding because the storm drain got filled in by a fence post. Concrete, I think was what it was, but, so that they're fixing all of that, and we won't be able to build a house on that side. Nothing will be built on the far west side of the property, because that's where the storm drain easement is. So that will likely be a road or open space, so, in the future.
Thank you.
I don't remember the other questions I was going to address.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you again.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to reopen the public comment period, so once again, if you could, please limit your comments to a few minutes. When you come up to the podium, state your name and address, and anybody that would like to come up can go ahead, come up.
Shannon Hart, 5357 Clover Meadow. I just wanted to clarify this land disturbance permit. Is that similar to like title insurance or an insurance policy? Or they just look at it and say, we're gonna do this much and this is what we're responsible for? What is that, I guess, is my question.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, please come up. Please state your name and address again,
My
sorry.
name is Carol Petrie, Chestnut Place, HOA. So, that building right there, just outside the green line, we refer to it as the funky building because it's a little bit odd. Now, 10 years ago, there was an issue with Murray City and some water project, and I was not living there at the time, so I don't know what the issue was, but it caused some ground settling in that building that has 5 units right there. And it ended up costing Chestnut quite a bit of money to stabilize the ground. 10 years later, we're seeing a lot of problems in that building, and we're having to do a lot of renovating just to stabilize the building. We've hired structural engineers, 2 of them. We have a report. It's going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars to get that stabilized. So I'm a little concerned about anything happening close to Chestnut for that reason also, aside from the traffic. So I think, Zach, you touched on some study that is going to be done. Will the Planning Commission, as well as Murray City, all the miscellaneous departments, do an impact study before anything is done or approved on this project? That was my other, or will UDOT, they will do their impact study themselves, I imagine, for traffic flow, but what about in the community at large with Murray City and the Planning Commission, an impact study? I didn't see anything on your website it goes back to 2021, but I didn't see anything related to this project. That's my last question, I think.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody else want to make a public comment? And we'll just check just to make sure we didn't get an email during this public comment period.
Okay, no.
Okay, we're going to reclose the public comment period, and Zach, you want to try to address those?
For sure. So a land disturbance permit, those get reviewed by the various departments in our Public Works department. They review a lot of things for it. I don't know a lot of those specifics. I can definitely give you a contact for those people after the meeting here. You can just meet me offline, and I'm happy to give you some contact information to kind of get the details on that. I know for sure there's a thing called a SWIP, which is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention, Protection Plan. There you go. It's SWPPP, that's all I know. So that goes as part of that. Also, I remembered what I was going to talk about. Construction staging. So that's also some of the things that people think about when it comes to potential neighboring home damage. The city engineer reviews that as well. So where are they going to store materials, and where are they going to put things while they're doing construction? That's also reviewed. So construction staging is a really big thing on Murray's radar. Okay, regarding the stabilizing, we do realize that, and that would be followed. There's a thing called a geotech study that's also included during these reviews with the various departments. That will check kind of the ground in general. What's it made of? What's the impact of moving any dirt? Is it going to affect things next door? And Mr. Lang would have to work on all of that. Oh, yeah, and how the foundations are constructed, all that great stuff. And if I'm being honest,
And we're always honest.
Yeah, and we're always honest. But I guess what I should have said is, in my opinion, having this land be improved on, it's actually going to be more stabilized on that side, and you would have less movement on that property because it is going to be improved with probably some nice vegetation, and that's going to kind of stabilize that ground a little bit more than just leaving it as
We'll
dirt.
also,
Yeah.
we'll also improve the drainage.
It
because
will
of
be,
that.
that drainage would be improved as well.
And just to clarify, all of those things happen and take place before any development
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, all of that happens.
So all of those studies, all of the geotech, all of the land disturbance, all of that happens in
Correct.
the preliminary and the final subdivision before anything is dug or developed on this property.
Yep, before a single shovel of dirt is moved, those things are reviewed. Regarding the traffic impact studies, those are reviewed by, so Murray City does not actually conduct the traffic impact study. That is, we don't have somebody that's qualified to do that as staff. We don't usually do that. Justin would hire a consultant. There are a few consultants in the valley that do traffic impact studies. And we're very familiar with who those are. And those are required prior to any development, any earthwork, anything like that. Those are required beforehand.
Okay. Thank you.
And any questions, I'm happy to answer after.
I did. Any comments, questions?
I'll make a few comments.
Yeah.
So, first off, this type of land has traditionally not been developed because it's marginal land compared to some of the historic properties that are nice and easy to develop. And so Murray City is at a point where this is the remaining land within the city, and this is the optimal land to develop. Simply, as stated, it is next to major arterial roads. Traffic is inconsequential in this area. Now, I know you feel like you have impact from traffic, and you certainly do, but it's from hundreds and thousands of people that live west of you. And if I-15 is the faucet, you are 2 inches into the hose. So there's 30 more units is not going to have a significant impact to your daily life any more than the development across the street had. I would say that you couldn't notice the difference before those townhomes went in versus now. You see a lot of traffic, because it's a lot of traffic. Also, this is, 1,000-year floodplain for the Jordan River, and that produces some of the problems that you guys are currently seeing and have had to deal with time and time again. And these are issues that are better understood than when your development went in. And the geotechnical engineers, when they do the reports, they will recognize that because geotechnical engineering has improved over the years. The technologies that they have to stabilize the soils has improved. So this is the ideal area to develop with what's left to develop within our city. It's very challenging to find anywhere else within our city to develop, and we need places for our children to live. We need places for people that no longer want to live in their single-family homes to live. This is lifestyle, a lifestyle development, which allows for people to either be young professionals or older people that don't want to maintain a home. It's impressive that he's able to get the UDOT permit. I think this is the first time that I remember that anybody's actually gotten a permit. If anything, UDOT comes in and revokes access
Takes
points.
accesses away,
And so, I think UDOT also probably comes to the realization somewhat that we need to develop tighter, more compact communities, because the old way of having everybody on a single-family home, that's going by the way. It's unfortunate for some people. Other people don't want that lifestyle anymore. People involved in planning and development might even say that, the suburban developments were mistakes from the day we started building them, and we should have been looking at a more conventional way of building, because we kind of reinvented the wheel for what communities should look like when we built all of the suburban developments. So, yeah, automobiles have really pushed us out this way. This is within relative close distance to the transit stop, certainly something that someone could ride a bicycle over the transit stop and use the larger area in and around the transportation network. So this is the type of area that I think is rife for change. And I think some of the other properties along 5300 South here will see similar types of development in the future moving forward.
Can I make a comment? All the comments Mr. Nay just made about development here, I'm really surprised that someone didn't come with a request for commercial. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised. So I think residential in this area fits the area better than commercial, so with all the challenges that we're going to have here, I'm glad it's residential instead of commercial.
I think that's the biggest thing. I think of this, I feel really comfortable, moving forward a recommendation of approval because it could have been commercial, like the property across the street that was zoned residential neighborhood business for future land. This would be a prime spot, but I think the residential buffering will be a huge impact. But when you look at, and I don't know if you guys paid attention to the final subdivision review, that was the project just ahead of that on the agenda, and the amount of things that were required for them. And so Justin has a huge, to get to that point of being able to develop, especially seeing here some of the power issues, some of the sewer issues, not having a lot of those things on this property already. There are gonna be some major hurdles to develop it. So I commend you for taking this project on. I think it will be a real addition. But there's a lot to get done before it can even move to the next step. There really are a lot of hurdles. So I think that, there's going to be a lot of time to take all of these factors into consideration. This isn't going to be a project that's done, really, really fast. There's just a lot here to do. And so I especially feel like with the water and the flooding and some of those things, this is going to be a real improvement to that entire neighborhood and those condos behind the fact that a lot of things when they are undeveloped, there's no control and maintenance of those things. So having the stormwater in place, having it landscaped, having all of the, the grading done, all of that is going to be really a benefit to all of those neighbors behind and those condos on both sides. I think that having this developed is going to be a really big asset for the entire neighborhood. And so, I think that the impact, like Commissioner Ney said, of 30 units feels like a lot, but it's gonna actually be a real support, like a real strengthen to this area where if they didn't have that UDOT access, which is why I think it hasn't been delivered, one, the amount of hurdles and amount of work that's gonna go into being able to develop this property, but two, it hasn't been developed thus far because of all of that that's going to be in the future for that. So I commend you. I think that's going to be such an asset, but I wish you luck on moving forward to the next steps.
So I would agree with the commissioners that have made their opinions known, and I would just probably have I reached the same conclusion as Commissioner Ney, perhaps for a little bit different reason, but I'm pleased that I'm pleased to have medium density. The trend in most cities that are growing the way Salt Lake is the longer parcels like this sit vacant, the higher the density gets. So I think townhomes, again, I'll echo a few of the commissioners. I think townhomes are a great use. Unless any other commissioners have any comments, I would be happy to offer a motion if there's no objection to that. Okay, well, in that case, I'm happy to offer a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesigning the properties located at 770 and 7080 West, 5300 South, and 845 West Clover Meadow Drive from low-density residential to medium-density residential.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Lowry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Ney. Let's do a vote.
All right. Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Malkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
I've lost my spot, Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay, someone wanna?
Yeah, I'll be willing to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the property located at 770 and 780 West, 5300 South, and 845 West Clover Meadow Drive, my eyes are failing me, from R18, single-family low-density residential, to RM15 multi-family medium-density residential as described in this staff report.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Ney. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Patterson. Let's do a vote.
Okay, Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes.
and Chair Pearson.
Yes. Okay, well, it's on to the city council, so good luck, and we appreciate you being here. And we also appreciate the people from, that came and made public comments, so thanks for coming.
Thank you. You've given me a very different and positive perspective. I'm glad I came. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's all our agenda items, except for announcements and questions.
Yeah, so we will be having a meeting on August 3rd. It feels weird to say that because it doesn't feel like August coming up. We do have a couple items. You guys will have a training, actually, on, we have Ryan Hales. And I would actually invite you guys to come as well because he is a traffic engineer and he's going to be doing a training on traffic impact studies, what they do, what they don't do. Kind of give us.
He's done almost every single one, maybe every one, right?
Yeah, he does a lot of traffic studies. He's actually, he taught in one of my classes in planning about land use and traffic and stuff. He's a great guy. So we'll have him do that at the end of the meeting. Other than that, we have a couple items. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. Yeah, a couple CUPs. So, other than that, we did get a new director, Phil Markham. He used to be on the planning commission. He just recently resigned from the city council to become the director. So he was unable to attend tonight, but he will be attending at some point in the future, kind of introduce himself. You guys mostly know him. Yeah, any questions from you guys for me at this point? Status updates or anything?
No questions, so if not, I guess we can do a motion to adjourn. Someone wants to do that.
I move that we adjourn at 7:57.
Is there a second?
Second.
We're adjourned.